Good evening. Tonight we're going to start with lesson 35 on our fractions. I can represent the multiplication of n times a over b using the associative property and visual models. Guys, all this means right here, n times a over b is just basically right here. 3 times 4 fifths equals 12 fifths. And this is what we call a fraction greater than 1. So this is the kind of thing that we would have to change into a mixed number. And we have done many practices with this. But today we're going to try to see if we can really understand what's happening and using those visual models to help us break it down. And so let's get started. Draw and label tape diagram to show the following are true. So basically they're saying they want to know if 8 thirds is equal to 4 times 2 thirds, which really is saying 4 groups of 2 thirds. Well, it is. And I created a tape diagram here to show you. And I have 8 thirds. This tape diagram is cut up into 8 1/3. So basically what we have here is we've got this one right here is 2 thirds. Over here, 2 thirds. Over here, 2 thirds. And our last one, 2 thirds. So basically we do have 4 groups. We have 1 group here, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. So we do have 4 groups of 2 thirds. So basically what this is going to look like, 4 groups of 2 thirds, which is really just saying 4 times 2 thirds, and 4 times 2, 8 over 3, 8 thirds. And that is what we have right here, 8 thirds, 8 thirds. Write the expression in unit form to solve. So we have 10 times 2 fifths. So that's saying we have 10 groups of 2 fifths. We have 10 groups of that. And so basically this is saying we have 10 times 2 fifths. There's our unit form. All right, which is basically saying 10 times 2 is 20 fifths, which is really just 20 over 5, 20 fifths. Again, this is how we are showing our thinking process of how to understand how to solve this type of expression in unit form by including the fifths. And understanding that this part right here is asking you for 10 groups of this, of 2 fifths, which is 20 fifths. And how do we get that down to a mixed number? Because we can't leave that. That's an improper fraction or a fraction greater than 1. Well, we would break that down by pulling out how many wholes that we can get. So we've got 5 fifths plus 5 fifths. That gives me 10 fifths, so we're halfway there. That gives me 15 fifths. And look at that. That is 1 whole, 1 whole, 1 whole, 1 whole. And so our fraction greater than 1, 20 fifths, is equal to 4 wholes. Write the expression in unit form to solve. 3 times 5, 6. All right, so we're going to continue doing the same thing that we just did previously. So basically, we're saying 3 times 5, 6. There's our unit form. And really that's saying 3 groups of 5, 6. We want 3 groups of it. So 3 times 5, which we get 6. And this, 3 times 5 is 15 sixths. which really looks like 15 over 6, 15/6. So we have 15/6, but now what we have to do is take that fraction greater than that 1 and make it into a mixed number. So let's pull out those wholes. So we got one whole, 6/6. And that becomes now 12/6. We cannot make another whole because that would be 18/6. So we have left over with 3/6. So we have a whole, which would be 2 wholes and 3/6 left over. But I see 3/6 can be reduced, and the factor that they both have in common is 3. So I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 3 to get 2 1/2. Solve 6 times 3/4. So guys, basically this is saying 6 groups of 3/4. So we could write 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. So that's saying 6 groups of 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when we add all that up, we would get 18/4. So it's because 6 times 3 over 4 is 18/4. But we cannot leave 18/4 as our answer. That's a fraction greater than 1, what we also could call an improper fraction. So we would want to pull out all those wholes that we can get to make that into what we call now a mixed number. So let's try that. I'm going to pull 4/4 out of there. There's a whole. Now I have 8/4. We still have some more to go. And now I have 12/4. And another would be 16/4, which we got to stop because if I added another one, it would be 20/4. So if we just stopped here with 16/4, that means I have 2/4 left over. So how many holes do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes and 2/4 left over. But I see as my final answer, I can't leave 2/4 as my final answer because it's not simplified. The greatest common factor that 2 and 4 share, well, that would be a 2. So I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 2. And now I'm going to get my whole number is 4, my numerator is a 1, and my denominator is a 2. So 4 1/2. All right. Remember when we're doing this, we want to think about reading it first, really understanding what the question is asking us. So Mrs. Smith bought some orange juice. Each member of her family drank 2/3 of a cup for breakfast. There are 5 people in her family. How many cups of orange juice did they drink? So we have right here, they bought some orange juice. And each member drank 2/3 of a cup, all right? And there are 5 people in her family. So what I'm hearing is that 5 groups of 2/3. We've got 5 of them, 5 people in the family. So if I actually drew cups and made 5, and how much did each make? Here's a 2/3, here's 2/3, right? This is basically saying the same thing that we've been doing. 5 groups of 2/3. And when we do this, it becomes 5 times 2 over 3, which is 10/3. So they drank 10/3 of a cup for breakfast. But we don't want to leave that as a fraction greater than 1 or an improper fraction. So what we want to do is we want to make this into a mixed number. So let's pull out the wholes. Here's a whole. This becomes now 6/3. I can get one more in there. That's 9/3. And then I just have 1/3 left over to get to 10/3. So how many groups do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3 groups. Well, we have 3 wholes and 1/3 left over. And 1/3 is in simplest form. We can't make that any bit lower than that. So our answer is 3 1/3. All right. Let's do this, you guys. You got it. I know you'll do a great job. Give it your best. All right, you got this. Solve 4 times 3/5. That's 4 groups of 3/5. And I'd like to see your work tomorrow. Solve 5 times 3/4. And of course, bring your work in tomorrow. Lastly, solve again. 7 times 5/8. Bring in your work tomorrow. Nice job tonight, guys. Keep up the great work. Have a wonderful night.